Hey guys, it's your girl Paris, and we are gonna get into my testimony. And because I've gone through so much in my life, my testimony is pretty long. I've been through a lot of battles. I've faced a lot of dark days and hard times. I really have come through a lot of situations and a lot of roadblocks, and had to go up a mountain so that I could get over it. And I'm gonna share that with you guys. And I talked a lot and I shared a lot with you guys that I've never shared before. So it is 4 parts, 4 very long parts. And this is the first part, which is gonna talk about my childhood and the beginning of my business career and everything, and a little bit of trauma. So I do want to just send out some trigger warnings in all of these parts. It will deal with SA, with BV, with suicidal thoughts and suicidal attempts. So if that's triggering for you, I do want to warn you that that stuff is in my story, and you might want to either skip over those parts or not watch. But I love you, and I hope that you make it through whatever you're going through, and I hope that God blesses you and God keeps you as He will. You just have to believe and have faith. And if you can't watch this, I am sending my love to you. But if you can watch it, please leave me a comment and let me know if you can relate in any way, or just leave me a positive and motivating comment. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's get into it. Hi guys, this is my testimony and my story. I really haven't wanted to talk much about my testimony or my story. I like to kind of keep it in. That's just kind of the kind of person I am. I feel like growing up, I did talk about my story a lot on Twitter as I was going through it, but I've never talked about it from an adult perspective and from a healed perspective. So I thought I would share, because I'm definitely about to move on from this point on, and I've just healed from a lot of this stuff. So I just want to release it and not have it just inside, because I know you have to release stuff in order for God to bless you into your next journey. So I am just releasing this and not allowing things to be dormant. And I know it's going to be a little bit awkward that I'm doing my makeup while I'm telling my story, but in therapy when I was younger, I used to break sticks and I used to play with cards, and doing something as I talk eases my nervousness and my anxiety about talking about things that I've gone through. So that's just what I'm gonna do. Okay, so let's get to it. Yeah. All right, so it's a lot. It's definitely different to, I don't know, be willing to open up about the things that I have gone through. Okay, so my earliest memory is pretty much walking my brother across the street when I probably was like 4 years old. Walking him across the street and us almost getting hit by cars, and I was walking him to my grandpa's house. I want to say my mom was at like downstairs or something, and she thought we were sleeping, but she was just downstairs, and I thought that she was gone. So I just like took it upon myself to independently like walk him to my grandpa's house, which is across a really busy street. And I could have only been like 4 at this time, but honestly I could have been older because my brother wore diapers for a long time. I could have been 5 or I could have been 4. I don't know, because that boy peed in the bed for a very long time. No shade, no shade. No shade to my brother. But that's my very first memory, like the youngest memory. But the memory after that is trauma. My youngest memories pretty much involve like trauma or some type of like huge like event that makes it memorable, from just being younger. So my youngest memory that I can really like remember is my father's dad busting out the window on the passenger side of the car, which is where I was sitting, and the window like shattering into small pieces, and then ended up going to my aunt's house and bathing and because she didn't have a shower, she only had a tub, and like bathing, and there was like glass inside of my clothes, so it was like coming off of me, and I was like bleeding, and like it was just, it's like a very traumatic first memory. And I was remembering that this was my first memory when I was this year, when I was inside of the, I don't know what it's called, but like I got in a car accident this year, and this little thing, the CAT scan, and I was trying to think of something that I got through. I'm like, think of like something that you got through, and this is not like the worst thing you ever been through or whatever. And I was thinking like of the first thing I got through, and it was that, like, that's my first memory, and my first like real memory is trauma. Because I had a very traumatic life. I feel like I've been very strong throughout my life, and God, just let my words flow, take the anxiety out of my heart, choose my words, open my heart, and just let the words flow. Amen. Give me discernment on what to say and what not to say. Amen. And I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, and I don't want to bring up no old emotions. I just want to go through this for once and for all and move on for my own sake, because I have moved on, but I think let's just do this little run one more time, and then it'll really be over. So my next memory after that is just, you know, like, and this is very traumatic for my mom, so mom, if you're watching this, please don't watch this video. It's just like living in a house and getting robbed, and them coming in and doing things to my mom, and I could hear her screaming, and, you know, like wanting to like save everybody, wanting to go downstairs, wanting to like arguing with the robbers and stuff. Like, my memories of my childhood are trauma, but I had a really good childhood, but those are just my memories, because the most things that happened to me, like the biggest events, were pretty much trauma. But as far as like school and everything, like, it was good. After my mom ended up leaving my brother's dad, I was in a single household. My dad was not around. He pops in when I was around like 13, 14, and then he pops right back out. But yeah, we lived in Section 8. We struggled, but I don't think that my mom like ever let us feel it. Okay, this is not my skin tone at all. Okay, I'm just gonna use my foundation pump and not try to use something different. We struggled, but like my mom never let me feel it. Like, I never felt like we struggled. I never felt like, oh, we didn't have things. My childhood, to me, other than like the abusive and the trauma like that I identified as I got older, was good. But as a kid, like, I really didn't look at that stuff as like bad. It was just like stuff that happened. I didn't identify it as trauma until I got older. So to me, as a kid, I had a good childhood. I was loved. My mom loved me. I didn't have one of those moms that was abusive towards me and mean towards me growing up. Like, she wasn't rude. She didn't call me out my name. And I think that's what's wrong with a lot of people now, is that their moms call them B's and 304s and this and that, so they take it out on the world. I personally think that's just a big thing that goes on. Yeah. I mixed the bronzer with my foundation to kind of get the color. But yeah, this ain't no makeup tutorial. Anyway, so I was around my grandpa a lot. My grandpa was like my father figure. He was the male figure in my life. I stayed at his house a lot. I spent a lot of time with him. He would take me back and forth to school. I was in a magnet school, which was further out. So my mom would have to like she worked further. I would have to, I don't know how I got to school, actually. I don't have a clue. Maybe it was a bus. I think a bus might have came and got us. So I rode the bus to school, and it was far out. It was Aroma Park, and it was for gifted kids. So we were smarter than like the rest of the kids in the district. So we went to a separate school. And it was cool. It was fun. I remember just being like a math leader. I always had really good math scores when we were kids. We wrote a book. We had a book competition, and I won it. But somebody else also won. His name was Michael Blesso. His name is Michael Blesso. And we both won, but then we had to do an illustration and I can't draw, so he ended up like winning the entire competition and I was so mad. But he won like a Snicker and a pen, and he gave me half of the Snicker and he let me keep the pen, so I was happy. We was best friends, and it was like a couple of us that was best friends, and we was all super smart, so my education and everything was cool. Like growing up as a kid was cool. I had fun in school. We played the chimes, and you know, we did regular kid stuff. I played outside like a regular kid. You know, I wasn't sheltered or anything like that. I pretty much had a good childhood outside of like the traumatic things that went on inside of the household when I was really little. I don't know when he left, how old I was when he left, but he left before middle school. So by middle school, my life was pretty regular. So we moved a lot, but I don't think we moved a lot as like, my mom just always wanted better, and she always got better for us, so we just upgraded kind of every year, and my mom wanted something different every year, so we never really like lived in one spot. I know a lot of my friends lived in the same house growing up. I didn't really live in the same house growing up, so I think when you look at my life later with me moving around a lot, it's not hard for me because I did that a lot as I was growing up. In middle school and stuff, I was bigger than everyone, and not like just in a like big sense, but like I was taller. I don't know why I had a growth spurt so early, like earlier than everybody else. People eventually caught up to my height, but if I can attach some pictures in this, I will. I was much taller than all the rest of the kids. I was like a giant, and then on top of that, I was pretty thick. I wore my hair in this little ponytail. My hair was never like done. My mom was not like really good at hair. Like she did her best, but once those little kid like ball styles went out of, she was lost from that part. My mama couldn't part. Mama couldn't really do no hair until I got to high school. Then she could help me with my hair. But like that middle school stage, she was not that big of a help. So I had the little ponytail stretched out, thinned out, flat iron as much as I could, looking a hot mess. Okay, looking a hot mess. Clothes was interesting, but I had clothes. I think I wore the same jeans again and again and again, but I had clothes on my back, so I was good. I was thankful for what I had. I was never ashamed of my life. I don't think there was anything to be ashamed of. I feel like I just lived the life of a regular kid. I don't know how kids are living lives these days because there's so much, I feel like, you gotta have, but for me it wasn't like that. Like I didn't feel like I needed to have anything. Like what I had was enough. I love my mom, I love my family, I love school. I was so smart. I loved going to school. I loved learning. Everybody liked me, and yeah, it was cool for me. I didn't get in trouble much. The only time I got in trouble was this boy told me to spell something, and it ended up being a curse word. He told me to spell something out loud without the letter, and then it ended up being a curse word, and it ended up being F-U-C-K or something. I don't know. It was like spell tuck without a T with an F or something. I didn't know no better, so I spelled it out loud and I got in trouble. And that was my only time I think get in trouble, like in my younger days. But I would test higher than everybody in math. When we had our ISET test, I always scored like 96% above most of the students in the state. I was really, really, really smart, and that was something that I just loved about myself, is that I was so smart. Moving on, we ended up moving to Crete. Also, something I want to say is like my mom was so dedicated that at one point I lived with my teacher in first grade while my mom worked in Chicago, because I went to school in Kankakee in the suburbs. So yeah, my mom was working in Chicago and I was going to school in Kankakee, and my mom, and what am I trying to say, and I lived with my teacher at this point, and my teacher, I would go to school with my teacher every day. Yeah, so that's just a fun fact, I guess. Anyway, so moving on to middle school, I ended up going to Crete, which is about like closer to Chicago. Kankakee is like an hour from Chicago. Crete is like 30 minutes from Chicago. And I went there, and that's when I like for the first time like experienced like real bullying, but like it didn't bother me for real. So when I first got there, it was like 6th grade, and they had 6th grade center, so they 6th grade was different. Like all the people in the 6th grade went to a different school. Matter of fact, I got there in 5th grade, so they were about to test me out of 5th grade and send me straight to 6th grade, but it was the end of the year, and I just told my mom, like, I didn't want to be with the older kids. I just wanted to be with the kids that was my age, like, because for me it just didn't make sense. So I just sat on the side of them and I got different lessons, which was very weird. I don't know why they did it like that. I don't know why they just didn't put me in the same. But when I did my test to like your placement, because Crete is a really smart school anyway, but when I did my placement test, I was like doing better than average. I was doing high school level, but they were just gonna put me in 7th grade. But I was like, Mom, I just want to stay in my same grade. Like, I'm not trying to do too much. Like, what are we doing here? So I ended up just staying in the same grade or whatever, and they taught me on the side, which I still to this day don't understand that. So my first day, this girl was like, what's your name? And I'm like, my name's Taiji or whatever. And she like, what the is a Taiji? And I'm like, girl, your name start with a Q. Like, your name ghetto, baby. I don't even know why you playing with me for real. But like, it was always like little jokes about my name and stuff, and like just talking shit. But everybody pretty much was like cool. It was just like a lot of shit talking, but I feel like that's how people was out there. Like, they just talked shit for no reason. So yeah, I'm trying to stop cussing. I'm doing my best. Let me not cuss in my testimony video. So they talked a lot of stuff or whatever, and it was whatever. Like, but I definitely experienced a lot more bullying here than I ever did, because I feel like the other kids just, we all grew up together. It was no reason to really pick with me, but these people picked with me because they didn't really know me. So it was cool, but I started to like, people just would not stop picking with me, I guess. So on a bus, like this girl Danielle, she used to always pick with me. She wore these bifocals, and I just didn't understand why. I knew why she was bullying people, because she was insecure. She wore these thick bifocals, and I'm just like, I don't even understand why she messing with me, but she continues to mess with me. And one day, Ludacris had that I feel like slapping somebody today. So she was singing that. She was like, I feel like slapping somebody today, slap, slap. And she was like over my seat, like trying to like make it like she was gonna hit me. And I'm like, and I'm gonna punch you in your face, punch, punch. And so she was like, so you wanna fight or whatever? I'm like, girl, it's whatever. Like, at this point, I'm getting sick of her, but we didn't end up fighting. But after that, my friend, the girl with the Q, she was so sick and tired of like me getting bullied and like not doing anything, because these people was messing with me like every day, even though she was the first one to bully me. Like, she was the first one to pick with me, but she just didn't do it for a long time. She just was doing the name thing. It was always a joke about my name, and then after that she kind of just was like, oh, I kind of like her or whatever. So she ended up, after a while, she ended up like fighting me, and I'm like, why are you like, as we're fighting, I'm like, why the fuck are you like fighting me? Like, she's beating my ass. Yeah, I'm sorry, she's beating my butt, like, and I'm not understanding, like, why are you fighting me? We friends, we ain't arguing nothing. She just dropped her book bag like after we got off the bus, and she started swinging on me, and I'm just like, she was like, you about to learn how to fight. I'm not about to have these people keep bullying you. You don't know how to, you need to learn how to fight. You need to learn how to defend yourself. Hit me back. I'm like, I'm not gonna hit you back. She like, hit me back. I'm like, I am not gonna hit you back. So I finally end up, like, her mama come out there and finally end up getting her off of me or whatever. And I had started to defend myself, but like, she was still beating me up. Like, I wasn't even trying to like really fight. I was trying to hold her hands. Like, I don't know what's up with me and trying to hold people's hands, but I was just trying to hold her hands. So that was our first little fight. So then me and Danielle, the girl, had got into it again, and this was right before we was finna start 6th grade. So I ended up fighting her or whatever. No, this was before, yeah, this 6th grade. This was right before we was gonna fight 6th grade. So we used to have these back to school parties like right before the school year or whatever. And we had like a back to school party, and I ended up fighting her there because she liked this boy, Jawan, and she thought I liked Jawan, but Jawan was my best friend because I liked another boy that was his best friend. So that's probably why she felt like we was always talking, but we lived on the same block. Anyway, it didn't matter. She had no reason to like me. So she had came up to me during the thing, and she was like, I'm gonna beat your A. And I'm like, okay, because what are you telling me for? Like, what are you telling me you about to beat me up for? So she ended up like, well, I'm thirsty. I'm like, okay. And she ended up going to get an Orange Crush, y'all. And she got the Orange Crush and she drank it. And like really out of a TV show, she grabbed this can, she guzzled it back, and then she took the can and she stepped on it. Why are you doing all of that? Why are you even doing all of that? So she stepped on it and she swung and she connected, baby. She connected, but that was her last connect. I beat the fuck out that girl. I beat the mess out that girl. Yeah, I'm trying my best. I beat the mess out of that girl. And it was very, very quick. It was the quickest part of my life. It felt like it lasted like 15 seconds. But I just knew when I got up, because when I got up, I didn't know I won. It wasn't until later on that day when everybody had told me I won, because I didn't know what happened for them 15 seconds, because they go so fast. And then the police was coming towards us and they was like, run. And I ran, and it was like this farm. I think it was called, like, it wasn't called Prairie Farm. It's called the barn or something. It's called something. But I ran toward the barn. And I got no. One thing about it, I might not be no runner, but when it's time to run, baby, I'm gonna run. I'm gonna run, okay? You're not gonna catch me unless you're real fast. But I ran, and that was my first fight. So after that, you think things will get easier because, okay, I proved myself, I could fight, I defended myself. No, now I got beef with everybody. It's people all over the school at Creek picking with me because they feel like, oh, you think you tough, you think you beat up the girl that beat up everybody else. Like, girl, you not tough. Like, I'm talking about everybody just picking with me, fucking with me for no reason. And I'm not even understanding, like, I done beat up the girl that's messing with me. Now everybody else want to mess with me too. Like, I thought I only had to beat up one person and then y'all was gonna leave me alone. Girl, no, it wasn't like that. So from here on out, I feel like this is where I became defensive and like had more of an attitude and like more on guard, ready to fight. Mouth got off the chain, like, because I just always had to defend myself. So I didn't end up having to fight again. I ended up fighting a cute girl, my best friend at the time. We ended up fighting over a boy. We was both, well, it was my boyfriend, so I don't know why. I don't know what she was upset about. It was her friend, it was my boyfriend. I guess she liked him and she didn't tell me or whatever. But we ended up fighting over her and I won that fight. So that was my second fight against her. I think we fought 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. But I won the second 2 times. I think we almost went for a draw the 3rd time because she tried to cover my mouth. Because she know I can't breathe out my nose. She put her hand over my mouth. I'm this bitch trying to kill me. But as soon as I got that motherfucking hand off my mouth, oh yeah, it was over with. But she definitely beat me up that first time. That's no shame, no shame, no shame. She beat it down. But yeah, so that was my like first fight or whatever. So the reason I ended up leaving Crete is because this boy, so now like I said, I'm fighting all the time. This boy, it's this gum tree outside of this school called Coretta Scott King or whatever on our walk home. So we used to have to walk home if we lived in UP. You couldn't get no bus home. We had to walk in the snow, -0. We had to walk, and it was crazy because it was over a mile away we was walking. So I don't understand why you would make kids walk a mile, but it was like if you live in the zip code of the school, you had to walk there. That made no sense to me. But most of these kids had parents with cars. Like my mama car, she used to have to hit the front of it for it to get hot, for it to like heat up, and for us to be, you know, straight to be able to take us to school. So I was just like, this not fair for real. Like, we can't afford to get driven to school, so we was walking or whatever. So yeah, on our walk home one day, this boy had pushed me into this gum tree. Now this tree just had everybody nasty spit gum on it that they put on the tree when they walk past. And he pushed me into the tree like he was on some flirting type stuff. You know how boys is like, they like you so they do dumb stuff. Yeah, he must have pushed me in that tree. I swung. Like, you got me messed up. So I ended up beating him up, I guess. Yeah, when I'm doing stuff, I just don't be knowing I'm doing it. I don't even remember beating this man up. But apparently I beat him up. So after I beat him up, his ego was like, just, he was blue. So he ended up, we ended up fighting again. Now, when he fought me the second time, him and his brother jumped me. So my cute friend, she had jumped in. And then her mama had seen us fighting when she was driving past to come, like, grab us because it was cold, to come grab us. She ended up getting a belt and like beating him with the belt too. So not only did they get beat up together, they got beat up with a belt by somebody's mama, like in front of all the kids, because we was closer to the school this time. So the third time, he was like, I'm finna get my brother on you. And his brother came and he was like, man, you got me out here for an effing girl. You got me out here for an effing girl. And he ended up leaving. Like, I'm not finna fight this girl for you. I'm thinking you got me out here for somebody that's really like doing something to you. Now mind you, they all foster kids. So he come back, y'all. He come back with a gun. So he pulled a gun on me. I don't know where I don't got to fear nothing but God in me. And it's been like this my whole life. I don't fear anything but God. And sometimes that is insane. Like, you might want to have a little bit of fear in your heart, if nothing else. But I don't have no fear in me. So when he put the gun on me, I was just like, I don't give a F. I don't give a F. Tell my mama I love her. Tell my mama I love her. The kids is looking at me like, oh, you have lost your marbles. I'm like, tell my mama I love her. Tell my mama I love her. And people was repeating that back to me for weeks at school. So the school bus pulled up and they seen that he had a gun and the police got called. So we ended up having to go to mediation or whatever. And the lady had told my mama and them that she had threw the gun away. And the police and stuff that she had threw the gun away. And she don't know how he got the gun. Girl, you threw the gun in the garbage? That don't even make sense. So my mama was just like, he know where we live at. They done seen you walking home. Even though I don't think he knew where we lived at, but he might. So she ended up saying like we was gonna move. So we ended up moving back to Kankakee. So we moved back to Kankakee. And I started going to the junior high. Everything was cool. Then I went to high school in Kankakee. So high school was cool. Super popular. Student body president. Very involved in school. Worked for my school. Just a very popular girl. Good life. High school for me was good. I had a ball in high school. I was not getting bullied in Kankakee. I was only getting bullied in Crete because those kids just had more than us. They was way more fortunate than us. Like, Kankakee had fortunate kids for sure, especially because I was in honors. Most of those kids were fortunate kids. But for the most part, like, we treated people with respect and dignity no matter what you had or didn't have. At least I did, and that's what I experienced while going there. But at Crete, it didn't matter. If your ass ain't had every pair of Jordans, you was a peon, you was a lame, you was this, you was that, and that's just, you know, how they acted. And that just wasn't my experience in other places. So I'm back in high school. I'm that girl. You know, it really ain't no issues. Like, everything is good. I'm not having sex. I got a purity ring. I'm just focused on school. I go to all after school programs because I really don't like being home. Yeah, everything is pretty much cool until my grandpa died. Ooh. When my grandpa died, I think that was like, that was just heavy for me. It was a lot. Like, that was my best friend. That was my best friend. No, that was the only male figure in my life. My stepdad came around, but that was, you know, that was my best friend, you know. Like, that was one person that I felt like understood me and loved me unconditionally. Would do anything for me. Used to pick me up from school and ask me to put $1 in his tank, and I used to be so embarrassed, but like, I would do it. We used to go home and watch the Parkers. He used to call me his little boo. He was like, hey boo. Every time I got home from school, when we watched the Parkers, he would have like newspaper down on the ground with a bowl of noodles. With a bowl of noodles and saltine crackers. I was real picky and I didn't eat nothing. So he might have him some, what's the sandwiches called? Not sauerkraut. That too, but he might have him a, it's like a patty with salmon patty or something. He might have him one of them salmon croquettes, and he'll still have me some noodles on the ground because I was picky. He'll have me a popsicle ready. He'll let me sleep in his bed while he slept on the couch. Like, he just was one of them people that put me before him and like showed me a lot of love. And I don't think I have ever experienced that love from anybody else like from him. My mama is a close second though, very, very close, but it just, with him, it just never stopped. You know, me and my mom had a time where we didn't, you know, even talk, and I don't think me and my grandpa would have ever been like that, no matter what. So to not have him was a lot. So I did not go to the funeral. I stayed in my bed, and the repast was at my house, and I did not come out, and I did not want the people there, and I did not understand why they was there, because they was not there for him. And I just didn't get why people would be so phony and fake. And I think that made me angrier than I ever been. It's just to see people be fake and phony and just pretend, like realizing how much adults just lie and pretend and are selfish, and just disgusted me. I think I just became so disgusted with adults in the way that they carry themselves after that, because they didn't care about him. And I was on my way, when I found out he died, I was coming back from Mathletes, from Crete actually, which is crazy. We played Mathletes in the tournament. I was a mathlete, I was a geek, very much smart, very much that girl, period, you know. But I was coming back from a meet, and it was pouring raining, and I was the only one left at the school. The bus had left. I told them, just leave. I'm like, they're gonna come get me. I don't know where they at, but just come get me. And nobody had came and picked me up, so I ended up calling my cousin, and he came and got me, but he was very far. But as I was standing out there, my mom called me, like, and I'm like, hey mom, where you at? Why you ain't come get me or whatever? She like, your grandpa died. She's like, all right, I got something to tell you. And I'm like, just tell me now. She's like, your grandpa died. And it was raining outside, and I just was outside just by myself, just for the first time, like really alone. Like, I really started to feel what it was like to be alone that day. That's the day, like, I became isolated. The day I didn't want to be around nobody. And don't get me wrong, I always been by myself as a kid. I'm a Leo. I want to be by myself. I want to do stuff by myself. But it was that or else now. It was never I wanted to be around people for real. I wanted to hang out like that. Like, it was pretty much I wanted to be isolated. So I worked for my school at the time. And I didn't even tell them that my grandpa had died, but I just kind of stopped showing up, stopped calling, stopped, like, I just was half-assing. So I ended up getting fired, and I didn't say nothing. And I sat at the table at lunch by myself. I didn't want nobody sitting with me. Now, I used to sit by myself and let people come to my table, but this was at a point where I just didn't want nobody sitting with me. So I kind of kept people from sitting with me or whatever, because I was just so angry about my grandpa dying that I just didn't want to talk to nobody. I was just in such like an isolation phase in my life, and it was just a lot. It was a lot. Okay, let me keep going, y'all. I'm cool now. Let's see. I went to church a lot. Like growing up, I went to church a lot. I was one of the people that I would go to church with my auntie, especially during high school and middle school. My auntie would be like, hey, I want to go to church, and I would go to church with her. Especially during this time, I went to church a lot, and I think that helped heal my heart a lot, was going to church. I went to Jehovah churches during this time. I kind of just like try out different faiths and tried out different things. I didn't limit myself as a kid to like one faith. I really wanted to go out there and like try to see like who was representing God the best. And I do feel like for me personally, it is the Christians. It might not always be the church of the Christians, but just the Bible itself. I do love the way that Jehovah's Witnesses teach the Bible. They do it in a very like making you understand manner, and I love that. I feel like sometimes now that I'm older, I can understand how we preach, but back in the day, I don't feel like preachers was preaching to where you could understand. It was just kind of what their message was. Now I feel like they starting to preach the Bible again, but back in the day, people was preaching personal messages and being a little messy. I can't even remember after coming out in high school a preacher preaching about being gay, and I remember him like looking directly at me. And even in high school, I had a boyfriend. For the most part, I had a boyfriend. I was not having sex. I was on the list for being a virgin, and I know people thought that was like a joke and it was supposed to be like funny, but it actually wasn't. It made their boyfriends come and hit me up. It was like a purity list, and I was the only name on it, and it was like everybody who had sex with who, and then it was like, and the only virgin in school, and it was my name, and I was happy to share that out let me share this right now. Actually, y'all think this is a joke, and I think this is great. I think this is the best thing ever. And they boyfriends was in my DMs right away. But yeah, so I had a boyfriend for a long time. We didn't have sex. He had his own stuff going on that I would find out years later that him and his mom and them were going through different situations and stuff. And like the reason he was never in school is because he had to make ends meet for his mom and stuff. So I found that out years later. Everybody going through their own stuff. That's why I was never really judgmental. But he did end up finding out that I was like, I had came out on Facebook as bi or whatever. There was like this post where you put like a red heart if you like girls and boys, a purple heart if you like, you know. And I had ended up putting a heart of like, oh, I'm bisexual or whatever, because I had realized like I like girls, and I had been talking to this girl on the phone and I liked her a lot. So yeah, so I ended up coming out, and when he finally did come back to school, which is crazy because I think when I came to school like the day after that, for the first time in a while, he ended up breaking up with me. So I got broken up with. My grandpa has passed. Just a lot of stuff was going on. A lot of my friends was not talking to me. Like all of my closest friends that I call brother, they was not like, they was just like being gay is like crazy. Like a lot of people just was not messing with me. That was the first time I did feel like a little bit of an outcast. So I just was like rebellious as ever. I was definitely getting meaner and meaner and ruder in these times, because I just felt like, I don't know, like everybody was so against me. But it really wasn't that big of an issue. Like I don't feel like I was treated that bad. But people definitely, you know, had something to say about it, especially when I first came out. But after a while, people kind of just like let it die down and let it go. But I did get broken up with or whatever. So I ended up after a while getting my job back after I told my employer or whatever that, you know, what I was going through or whatever, and I started to kind of like open up with everything that I was going through. And I got my job back. I did end up losing it again. And I also ended up like almost getting kicked out of school, almost getting expelled. So basically I worked for the school, and I worked in like the sports area, and there was this news reporter from another school, and he was reporting the game or whatever. And we worked, it was a Friday basketball game, and after the games we would unplug everything and like put everything up, push the bleachers back in. Like this was my job, this is what I did every week. It was never an issue. So we were unplugging things, and I guess his radio or something got unplugged. I don't know why he didn't have a wireless radio, because like even wireless radios existed like in these times. But yeah, so he was like WTF, like he was cursing or whatever, and he was like, what the F are y'all doing, are you dumb? Like he was just talking crazy. And then the second time, like I'm just like, you know what, I'm gonna move to the other side and unplug. So I guess he had thought he was smart, and he plugged it up on a different side, even though he should have just plugged it in the same spot. So he plugged it somewhere else, and then we ended up unplugging, and it wasn't even me, I was just over there. And he was like, you N-word. He called me with a hard R. He called me an N-I-G-G-R. Okay, so after he called me that, yeah, baby, I went off the rails. Mind you, I'm still healing from my grandpa dying. Like I'm not all the way back there. Like and then it's like, this is my first experience getting called like a hard ER or whatever. So I just end up going off. Like y'all, I take the chairs that I'm putting up and I start throwing them up the bleachers. Like I'm cussing him out. Like I completely blacked. And this is when I started to realize like, oh, I have real life anger issues. Like my anger, like I would completely black out. Like it was kind of scary, because I wouldn't even remember it. Like the only thing I can really remember is throwing the chairs, which is the first thing I did. One of my teachers, which this is a teacher who drove, because I didn't even live in the school district. Let me say that too. We ended up moving to a different city. So my teacher would come and get me, because she lived in that city, and bring me to school every day at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I ended up pushing her out the way. I told her to back the fuck up. I was like, back the fuck up, because I'm gonna go off. Then my boss, I had already went up to my boss. So the first time that he said something, I went up to my boss like, hey, you know, we supposed to be unplugging this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, don't you see I'm talking or whatever? And I was just like, oh, so you want me to handle it? Because like I already came to you and you ain't saying it. So I was like, oh, so you want me to handle it? So I went back down there, and that's when he had plugged it up somewhere. That's why I didn't see it or whatever. So then when we went to, me and my the other one when we went to unplug other stuff, and he's the one that like physically unplugged it, but I was over there too, and he called me that. Like, I just flipped shit. So when she came up to me, I pushed her down to the ground, because I'm like, no, because I had already told you, like, I'm going nuts, and like parents are calling me like, you're crazy, like you're acting ridiculous, you're being ghetto. Like, they saying all this like black type of stuff to me, because this is technically like a white school. This is not really a black school, but it's a lot of black people that go there, so I look at it as a black school or whatever. But at the end of the day, this is a white school with a lot of white staff. It's not a lot of black staff. So that was on a Friday. So I came back to school on that Monday, and I just kind of already told my mom, like, it's giving like transfer, because if I don't transfer, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get expelled. Now, this coming from somebody that's the superintendent student at large. That means the superintendent picked me to speak for the school, like for the body of my grade. So I think I was a senior at the time, a junior and a senior, so both levels. But she picked me to speak for my whole class and bring up the issues at the district meetings and stuff. I worked for my school. I was student body president. Like, I'm somebody who is not in trouble often. I did bully bullies. I didn't give a fuck. If you bully people, I will bully you, like, because you shouldn't be bullying nobody. That was just my logic. But I really wasn't in trouble. The only times I would get in trouble was they would tell me, like, you can't be bullying people, and I would be like, they bullying somebody else and I'm not bystander, because we had this thing when we was growing up with don't be a bystander, and I'm like, I'm not being a bystander, and y'all literally taught us that. So that was my argument all the time. Anyway, I'm like, this thing probably not gonna be like that excusable, but at the same time, this man was calling me an N-word. People was talking about it on Facebook. Like, it was just, I just knew, like, you know, like, it was gonna be a lot of chatter. Mind you, I work for the school, so I have the keys to the teachers lounge, and I can hear them from the hallway going back and forth arguing about the situation, about me being crazy. And I can hear like a black teacher like, y'all ain't never had to be called no blah blah blah. So I end up busting in the teachers lounge, like busting in because I got the key. I'm about to take the keys back because I'm finna quit or whatever, but I know I'm finna get fired too. But I open the door and I'm like, if y'all got anything to fucking say to me, you can say it to my face. I mean, I'm literally like wilding out at this point. Like, I'm going off the hinges. I know I'm about to leave the school. I already got my mama at the front doing the transcript. So as I'm walking back, I'm just like, I'm finna be out of school anyway. So by the time they even hear about this, I'll already be put out and they can't expel me. So I go to where my boss is at, and she's like, you know, I always loved you like a daughter. I can't believe you would do this to me. And I'm like, you ain't never loved me as no daughter. You don't love nobody as no daughter but that fucking dog. Like, I'm going crazy, just like, I'm just not feeling it. I'm so offended by everything. Like, I'm just like so mad that I got called the like hard R. So I'm just like, you don't give a F about me, blah, 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 blah. And the lady that works for her, which is like somebody I'm really close to, she's like really sad. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm apologizing to her because I would never like disrespect her in the way that I'm disrespecting this lady, because I don't care about the other lady or whatever. So I'm like, I'm just like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I'm disappointed, but it's not your fault. Like, I know that he called you, blah, blah, blah. So at least she, like, you know, seen something from my side. So I appreciated her from that at least. So I ended up telling her, like, I'm gonna go to BB or whatever. And she was telling, and the lady was telling me I'm fired. I'm like, bitch, I quit. I don't care. Like, I'm quitting anyway and I'm leaving. So I ended up going to the other school, and the other school was cool. The only thing is, this was an actual white school. The other school was white technically, but this school was actually white. Like, there might be 4 black kids in a classroom, if that. In the other class, I feel like it was more like evenly split between Mexicans, black, white, Hispanics, black, white. But yeah, this, it was just like 2 to 3, maybe 4 if you lucky, black kids in a class. You might be the only black kid. Like, this is a real life white school. It's called Bradley Bourbonnais Community High School or whatever. So I go there, everything's cool. The only thing is they're super, super, super homophobic. And I got this shirt that says like gay or whatever, and I got it when everybody was being like, you know, weird towards me, because I'm just such a rebel. I just had to be such a rebel. So I got it when everybody was being so weird towards me, and I would be wearing my little gay shirt or whatever. And yeah, they kind of like had an issue with it. So they would be like sending me to the office, and like I missed a lot of class and stuff just because of like being gay, just because I was gay or whatever. So I ended up being in a math class, and this man sent me down to the hallway, and his wife was actually the dean or whatever, and she was pregnant at the time. So when he sent me down, she was like, why did he send you? And I'm like, because of my shirt. She was like, excuse me. Like, she was so confused. So she just like had him come down there. She sent like a substitute to her class, and she sent him down there. She sent him to her office, and she spazzed on him in front of me like, if we have a fucking child and the child is gay, are you telling me you're gonna? And I was just like, and it was that time when people were starting to like realize like it's not okay to be homophobic, but like we still wasn't there yet. Like, I feel like now we to the point where people are, you know, you should not be homophobic in 2024. Like, you doing too much. But back then it was like, it was okay, and most people was okay with it. But this woman was not okay. She was hormonal and she was going off. So she ended up stapling a note to my shirt. Like, the next, I ended up getting sent again that day. That time she ended up stapling a note to my shirt. Like, the next teacher to send me down will be getting fired. I'm like, ooh. Like, damn, I didn't even know a dean could fire somebody, but she was fed the fuck up or whatever. So yeah, I ended up going there. I ended up getting a job at Jules, and I worked at Wendy's. So I worked 2 jobs, and I was just in school, and I ended up graduating early. We had a little issue with the attendance at first, because you had to have perfect attendance, but the only reason that I didn't have perfect attendance is because I was in the office most of the time. So the classes that I missed was because of me being gay. So I ended up arguing that or whatever, and they ended up letting me graduate early. So I graduated early. I worked. I didn't go to prom. I didn't do any of that like stuff, just because honestly, like, I was at odds with my mom. By this time I was living with it was, in my head it was my girlfriend, but it was really like a friend or whatever at the time. She was way older than me. She might have been like 2 or 3 years older than me. And I was living with her, and because I had like left the house. Like, me and my mom just was having issues, the gay stuff. It was just like a lot. Me getting older, like, you know, like just feeling mistreated in the house, feeling like Cinderella. I used to always say I was Cinderella and stuff. So I ended up leaving or whatever. Then after I graduated, I ended up going to Virginia with the girl that I was talking to off of Twitter, and she was way older than me. I want to say she was like 24 and I was like 18, which is not okay looking back. Like, I don't think that was cool at all. I turned 18 while I was out there, so I was 17 turning 18, and she might have been 23 turning 24. On my birthday, like, I was finding out that she was cheating on me, and she had used all of my money. Like, I paid for us to stay in these like half hotel, like half homes, and after I was out of my money, we went and lived with her cousin. And then on my birthday, like, she was somewhere gone, like, cheating on me. And then, like, when I tried to leave to go back home, she took my wallet, she took my ID, she took all my identification, and was like holding me hostage. And like, I don't know why I was still like confined to that space, but like one day I started like screaming and yelling so loud that the neighbors ended up calling the police, and the police like did a knock on the door, and I told them that I was being held hostage. And I don't know like what was keeping me from getting out. I think it was just my car. But I really, in my mind, I remember being locked somewhere, but I can't remember that I was actually locked somewhere. I don't think I was like locked in no basement or nothing. I know for a fact I wasn't locked in no basement, but there was a reason that I couldn't get out, which is why I was screaming and hollering. And I don't understand how a lock would be on the outside of the door. So I'm just trying to figure out like how I couldn't leave or whatever. I didn't have my ID, so that was confining me to the space. Anyway, so the police comes, and they end up telling me about the Greyhound program, and telling me like basically if you say like that it's just like a thing with you and your parents or whatever, about you being gay or whatever, that you can come back home. They have like this runaway thing. So I end up going back home. My high school best friend at the time, and I lived with her too in high school. So I lived with a couple friends like throughout high school. I just want to skip that part because that part of my story is like really messy, but I did just have like falling outs from my mom during high school, and I ended up living with my friends. And those friends, like, I'm not in contact with no more, and I appreciate everything like that they helped me with like coming up, but like it's just like too much. And one of them like still stalks me to this day, so like I just don't want to get into it because I already know she's watching this, like, and I just don't want to put her too much into my story because like she thrives off of that, and like she's thriving off of me even bringing it up right now. So yeah, moving forward, I ended up being able to get back, and the old best friend ended up taking me to college. She was very helpful like in getting me from Kankakee to college or whatever. She drove me there. We used to go down there in high school and party down there, but I didn't even apply to EIU. I ended up getting accepted to EIU because of my grades. So it was just one of the schools that I applied to that I was accepted to, and because I was held hostage, I was just like, if I don't have nowhere else to go, like I could go to college. So I ended up just going there, and I was just like, okay, well, now I go to EIU or whatever. I don't know what I'm about to do to my eye, y'all. So now I go to EIU, but it wasn't like a, it was like nothing that really made me want to go to EIU. It was just that I had already gotten approved for FOSFA. Well, no, I didn't get approved for FOSFA until I got there, but I had already gotten approved to go there. So I was just like, I'm gonna just end up going here because it just makes sense. Y'all, I be rambling, but I pretty much feel like where I left off at was college. And as far as college, like, it was good. Like, I had a really good time in college, but the first time that I went to college, I did end up leaving and dropping out. I just was very, very depressed. A lot had happened just in a transition of coming from high school to college. I just felt like I wasn't doing it for anybody. Like the same with prom, I felt like I didn't go to prom because I wasn't doing it for anybody. I felt like prom is for your parents. To me, college is almost for your parents. Like, nobody was pushing me, nobody cared about my test scores. Like, for me, it was just like really, really hard for me mentally. And after family weekend came, I ended up just deciding that I was gonna leave. So I did end up leaving, and I went back home, and I don't know where I stayed at first. I can't even remember, but I did end up back at my mom's house. I want to say I stayed with my friend. I stayed with my friend again. And then I realized that, and I didn't realize this till I'm older now, that she had a drug issue. That she was using drugs. I just thought she was like demonic, but she was using drugs. And now that I know that, it makes a lot of sense, like why she still stalks me. It's because she plays with drugs a lot, and like that demonic behavior comes from the drug or whatever. So yeah, I stayed with her, and then one time she had like, was having like this demonic like outcry, saying like God is good, and like I thought someone was like attacking her in the bathroom, and I found out nobody was in there with her, and I was trying to get in, and I couldn't because she was like much stronger than me, which didn't make sense because she's so small. And I just realized like it was cocaine strength, like she was doing drugs, and I didn't realize that till years later when somebody finally told me like they deal drugs to her. And I was like, oh, that would make, that would add everything up or whatever. So I ended up going back to my mom's, like, and I hadn't even been talking to my mom, but I called my mom up like, look, I know we ain't talking, but I need to come to your house. So I stayed with my mom for a little while, and I really couldn't do it. Like, I really didn't like her fiance husband at the time. So I ended up just going and leaving back to school because we were just having the same issues that we had previously had, and I was ready to go. So I went back to school, and my second time in school, everything was really good. I was super booked and busy. I started a business. I went to school. I was the president of this club called PACE. We had meetings where we would discuss different different subjects, like the difference between a woman and a bee, the difference between a man and an N-word, like just like controversial type of stuff. And it was fun. Like, I enjoyed it a lot. It was like a creative space for me, and it helped me with my depression and stuff. But I did have my next door neighbor. She was in an abusive relationship, and a lot of nights I just was up like hearing her, be beat through the wall, and it was a lot, especially growing up in that environment. Like, it just was a lot of PTSD. It made me feel very childlike. It made me feel very like I needed to save her, like she was my mother, like it was the same situation. And it ended me in a really, really bad situation that honestly changed my life. I ended up one day, we were outside of this club, penalty box or whatever, and her boyfriend was out there like yelling at her and screaming at her, telling her to get the F in the car. And I was telling her like, please don't go. And I was like begging her, like child, like begging and pleading with her like not to go with him, like literally crying out like a crazy person, like for her not to go. And she did go, and I was just like in the middle of the street, like sobbing, like about to get hit by a car, and someone was like, get out the street or whatever. And I got out the street, and I went back in the club, and like I was snotty nosed, like bawling, crying. I went in the bathroom, and I was like bawling, crying, and my friend took me in there. I was telling her like, I just want to go. I was like, I feel like I'm too drunk. I just want to go. Like, I'm like so shooken up. Like, I just want to go. I feel like overly drunk. Like, I was already super drunk, and then just how that happened, like it really heightened my it heightened my drunk, and I just was like, I'm ready to go. So I told my friend, like, I really need you to take me home. Like, I really need you to take me home. So she was like, I'm about to take you home. She was like, just sit here, and it was at the bar, and I'm just gonna get my keys or whatever. So I sit there, and this girl came and brought me a drink, like, I seen you crying or whatever, and I drank it, and that's when I just felt like really just like weird. Like, after I drank that drink, I just felt like really weird. To this day, I don't know if it was spiked or not, but I felt like I was drugged, but I don't know. But this is a girl that was trying to like get with me, and I didn't want to get with her, but I liked her, I don't know what it's called when people on the same line. I liked her line sister. I didn't like her or whatever, but she always used to try to like force herself on me, but I just was like, I don't like you or whatever. And she just never like really got the clue. She just didn't take like my dismissings well. Anyway, yeah, I don't know where my lashes at, so I'm probably gonna put on some ugly lashes. But so my friend like is looking for her keys. She can't find them. She ended up sitting me outside because I'm like hysterical at this point. Like I said, I feel like I done been drugged, so I'm just like hysterically like just like drunk as ever, and I'm outside like sitting on the yellow stump like where the parking thing is, and she's just like looking for her keys, and she couldn't find them. Now I don't know what happened after this. All I know is what she told me, and she said, I sat you on the stump, and then she said, you got in the car with somebody. She was like, a man. She said a man. You got in the car with a man, and it was she said it was a gay man. And you sat in the car, and she was like, and I tried to find my keys. She couldn't find her keys. I tried to find my keys, and I couldn't find them, and then you were gone. So he said I got out of the car, and I did, because I didn't wake up in his house. I woke up in someone else's house. So he said that I got out the car, and I went with somebody else who came and like got me from the car. So I do remember like waking up that day like soaking wet, no clothes on. My pants were soaking wet, like everything. I do remember like as the weeks went by, I started to get flashbacks of the night and like start to remember stuff. So basically I got sexually assaulted by a girl and not a man. I think for a long time I just let people like assume that I got sexually assaulted by a man, but I actually got sexually assaulted by a woman. I've been sexually assaulted by a man too, but the one that like hurt the most was by a girl. I need some glue, y'all. I ended up finding out, I just woke up in the house was empty, nobody was there. I remember bathing and being in the shower and being on my period. I was on my period at the time, so that's probably why I was put in the shower, so the person can still have sex with me even though I was on my period. I remember parts of the night, but when I woke up and it felt like I was in like a black hole. It didn't feel like, I didn't look around, I didn't look at pictures, I didn't know where I was. I didn't put two and two together until this boy came up to me and was like, oh, you, I heard you and what's the name had sex, and I'm like, we what? And I put two and two together of that's who house I was at. I did some investigating, asking where this person lived at and blah, blah, blah. And I found out, and I addressed them, and I asked them like, was you telling people we had sex or whatever? And they was like, we didn't or whatever, and they kind of just like avoided me. So I ended up filing a case with the school, but because her apartment was technically off campus, because she lived in off-campus apartments, I lost my case. So I was more embarrassed than anything to have gone through all of that. She ended up leaving the school like immediately after the case. Her mom worked for the school, her mother left the school, like they ended up leaving immediately, but they won the case. I lost the case. And it was very embarrassing to sit up in front of my peers, you know, that know my deepest, darkest secrets, and I don't know who they told, you know, they're not supposed to tell, but a lot of the people in there were student workers, so it's like they know my business and they know stuff about me, and you know, like it's stuff that I'm insecure about. Just dealing with that situation and people knowing that, you know, I got sexually assaulted by a girl, and that, I don't know, it just made you feel a little bit weaker. Like, to be sexually assaulted by a man is a lot, but to be sexually assaulted by a woman, I feel like women should protect women. Like, we know what we go through already, and we know like the situations that men put us in, but to be put in that same kind of situation by a woman, it's just like it just was like more hurtful. And then after that, I feel like I just got real like promiscuous and just like real sexual. Like I was just nonstop, like after that I was just like nonstop like drunk. Like I remember like for the first time like doing sexual activities with a boy at school or whatever. And I think I was just like doing it wherever. Like I was just kind of like in overdrive because I had just been sexually assaulted for the second time in a year, and this time it was by a girl, and it just like drove me into just like, I don't know. And for somebody who left high school, you know, a virgin, I didn't have sex until the summer before. I always tell people college, but it was the summer before I went to college. And just to become like somebody who was never focused on sex, to just be so like over sexual, like I felt like I had to get her off of me in a sense. So I just had to have sex with her and her and her and her and her. And I never had actual sex with him, but like I did stuff with a boy. Yeah, it was just, I just was like in a bad place, and I was like, I feel like I was just like thirsty for a relationship, thirsty for somebody to love me, like, because I just felt gross and I felt disgusting, and I was just so disgusted with myself. I just felt so nasty and so just like ashamed, and I just wish that I had never tried to like save that girl. Like I just felt like, y'all, I just felt so disgusting. So disgusting. So I feel like this part has already been super long, so we're gonna do a part 2. I'm gonna stop here. I know that was a lot. I think that is the high for the most part. In the second part, it'll be a little less traumatic. No more sexual assaults or nothing. Well, none I'm gonna bring up. But yeah, I'll see y'all in part 2.